College of Education, Kebbi State, Establish Settlement Bill 2018, SB 620, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, Jibrin Barau on microbiology. Order, please. Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in name of Senator Jibrin Barau on the Microbiology Council of Nigeria Establishment, etc. Bill 2018. Mr. President, may we invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Microbiology Council of Nigeria Establishment, etc. Bill 2018, SB 617, first reading.
Microbiology Council of Nigeria Establishment, etc. Bill 2018, SB 617, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fifth business of the day is the presentation of the report of the Committee on INEC on the screening of the following nominees for appointment as resident electoral commissioners for the Independent National Electoral Commission. The names are 1. Baba Abba Yusuf, Borno, reappointment. 2. Musa Shegun Agbaje, Ekiti State, reappointment. 3. Elder Monde Udo Tom, Akwa Ibom State, new appointment. 4. Eric Olawale, Osun State, new appointment. 5. Dr. Usman Abdurrahman Ajidagba, Kwara State, new appointment. 6. Dr. Cyril Omorogbe, Edo State, new appointment. 7. Yahya Bello, Nasarawa State, new appointment. 8. Dr. Emmanuel Alex Hart, River State, new appointment. And 9. Mohammed Magaji Ibrahim, Gombe State, new appointment. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Suleiman Nazif, Chairman of the Committee, to move motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Senator Suleiman Nazif.
Thank you, Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues. My name is Senator Suleiman Nazif. I rise to move that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on INEC on the screening of the following nominees for confirmation of appointment as resident electoral commissioners of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to be laid. I so move.
Senator Emmanuel Polka.
Mr. President, I rise to second the motion that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on INEC on the screening of the following nominees for confirmation of appointment as resident electoral commissioners of Independent National Electoral Commission. I so second, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on INEC on the screening of the following nominees for confirmation of appointments as resident electoral commissioners of Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Nazif, come and read the report. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the sixth business of the day is the presentation of the report of the Committee on Environment on the investigation of Ogoniland cleanup and Great Green Wall program. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Oloremi Tinubu, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Senator Tinubu.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Oluremi Tinubu, representing Lagos Central Senatorial District. I rise to move the motion that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Environment on the investigation of Ogoni land cleanup and Great Green Wall program. I so move, Mr. President.
Senator Hope Uzodimma.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Hope Uzodimma. I represent the good people of Imo West. I rise to second the motion that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Environment on the investigation of Ogoni land cleanup and green war program. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the report on the investigation of Ogoni land cleanup and Great Green War program, those in favor that we do receive this report say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Tinubu, come and lay the report. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the seventh business of the day is the presentation of the report of the Joint Committee on Finance on the Stamp Duties Act Cap S8 LFN 2004 Amendment Bill 2018. Mr. President, may we invite Senator John Eno, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Senator John Eno.
Mr. President, my name is John Owan Eno, Cross River Central. Mr. President, may I move the Senate to receive the report of the Committee on Finance on the Stamp Duties Act Cap S8 LFN 2004 Amendment Bill 2018. I so move.
Senator Samego.
Thank you, Mr. President. I remain Senator Sam Ebu. I represent the good people of Ebonyi, North Senatorial District. Mr. President, I rise to second the motion that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Finance on the Stamp Duties Act Cap 5 S8 Amendment Bill 2018 as presented.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Finance on the Stamp Duty Act Cap S8 LFN 2004 Amendment Bill 2018 HB 889. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator John, come and lay the report, please. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the eighth business of the day is the presentation of the report of the Joint Committee on Police Affairs and National Security and Intelligence on the resolution of the Senate on the ad hoc committee on security visit to Benue State. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Abu Ibrahim, Chairman of the committee, to motion for the Senate to receive and consider the report.
Senator Abu Ibrahim.
Mr. President, sir, my distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Abu Ibrahim, representing Kasura Towers. I move that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Joint Committee on Police Affairs and National Security Intelligence on the resolution of the Senate on the other committee on security visit to Benue State and the director of the Senate to the IGP to apprehend and prosecute the perpetrators. So I move.
Senator Geshambasi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Geshambasi, Cross River South Senatorial District. I rise to second the motion that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Joint Committee on Police Affairs and National Security and Intelligence on the resolution of the Senate on the ad hoc committee on security visit to Benue State and the directive of the Senate to the IGP to apprehend and prosecute the perpetrators. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Joint Committee on Police Affairs, National Security and Intelligence on the resolution of the Senate on the ad hoc committee on Security's visit to Benue State and the directive of the Senate to the IGP to apprehend and prosecute the perpetrators. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Abu Ibrahim, if you first come and lay the report and then. Go ahead, Senator Rupert.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, now the Senate, at its sitting on Wednesday, 31st day of January 2018, consider a personal explanation by Senator Joshua Lidani, who drew the attention of the Senate. This resolution on the Act of Committee on Security of Febuary State, which stated that the Senate do urge the IGP to within 14 days apprehend, investigate the perpetrators of this act. And the Febuary State Attorney General to prosecute the offenders, and resolve to mandate its committees of police affairs, national security, and intelligence to summon the IGP on Thursday, the 1st day of February 2018, and report to the Senate on Tuesday, the 6th day of February 2018. On page 2, the Joint Committee met and resolved to summon the IGP of Police to appear before it on Friday, the 2nd day of February 2018. The IGP appeared before the committee on Friday, the 2nd day of February 2018, and in his written presentation, he briefed the committee as follows. Now, the full report of the IGP is circulated at this report. Thus, following the outbreak of violence in some parts of Benue State, we led a team to commence an on-the-spot assessment of the situation in the state with visits to flash points of the crisis such as Logo and the Guma development areas in Benue State and Tunga and Nasarawa State. Thereafter, a stakeholders meeting was convened on Thursday, the 4th day of January 2018 in Makadi, Benue State, where he met with the governor of Benue State, religious leaders, spiritual leaders, opinion leaders, and civil society organizations. At that meeting in Benue State, was meant to interact with the state government and other stakeholders with the view to find a lasting solution to the lingering crisis in the state. That on the stance of claims by Benue State Governor at the stakeholders meeting alleges that there exists armed militia camp in Tunga in our local government of Nasarawa State awaiting to unleash mayhem for Benue people, he further visited Nasarawa State for fact-finding and engaging with the stakeholders, where he found those claims were untrue. That between 31st day of December 2017 and 31st day of January 2018, over 21 attacks have been reported in Benue State. Noting that while 11 were believed to have been carried out by groups suspected to be Fulani herdsmen, 10 were carried out by groups suspected to be 10 were believed to be carried out by suspected TIP militia groups. That having visited the fresh points of the crisis and assessed the magnitude of the problem, the police immediately intensified deployment of personnel, including 10 PMF units, unit of Special Police Force, Counter-Terrorism Unit, Explosive Ordnance Group, Department to Benue State, and the 5 additional PMB units to Nasarawa State. 5 area surveillance has been intensified around the two states. That a total of 145 suspects have been arrested, out of which 124 have been charged in court, while 21 others are still under investigation and are waiting to be charged in court. That while the police is doing all that it could to restore normalcy in the state, it is important for state government and relevant stakeholders to engage in continuous dialogue for peaceful coexistence. observation and findings. The committee observed as follows: that there is a wide gap and serious defect in water operation due to inadequate funding. That local government councils have been rendered ineffective, thereby unable to deal with security issues because there is no board crisis. That inflammatory statements, utterances, and actions of some politicians and the opinion molders have been found to be promoting hatred and inciting violence. That there is massive proliferation of arms and ammunition in Benue State and across the country in general. Recommendation: the Nigerian police force should be strengthened and fully utilize intelligence gathering capabilities. The police is grossly underfunded. Therefore, it is recommended that a percentage of excess crude oil fund, of a percentage of that, about 25% or more, should be dedicated to the police and be appropriate to the police this financial year. Politicians and opinion leaders should desist from making inflammatory statements capable of inciting violence. Deliberate steps should be taken to disarm all armed militia groups in the Benue State and the country in general. The IGP should speedily prosecute those arrested and expedite the efforts to arrest those still pledged. In conclusion, we wish to use this opportunity to express our profound gratitude to the President of the Senate and the entire Senate for the privilege to serve in this capacity. We are ready more than ever before to perform any assignment given to us in the future. Thank you very much. Mr. President, as I mentioned, attached to this report, the full statement of the IGP is attached for the Senator's perusal. Thank you very much.
DSP.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues. Let me start by commending Senator Abu Ibrahim for this report and the effort to bring it back on time. I just have one simple observation. I noted that in the statement made by the IG, he copiously mentioned the governor of Benue in most of the paragraphs. But I didn't see where the committee made an effort to speak with the governor. Unless I didn't see that. But because if, in the circumstance, they did not interview the governor, and his name had been mentioned in respect of certain statements and actions, it's only fair to him, and then natural justice requires too that he should be invited by the committee and hear his own side of the story, so that we have a balanced view of what transpired. That's just my only observation.
Senator Olero.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name remains Muhammad Adam Olero, representing Kebbi Central. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, let me equally join the DSP in commending the committee for a very good report. Mr. President, for the first time, we're hearing suspects being arrested and be charged to court. This is a very good beginning, unlike other crises where police and other security agencies would not be able to arrest any suspect. For this one, the police has tried by arresting over 125 suspects, and they have already been charged to court. And this will certainly stem the tide of further violence. Mr. President, the committee has made a very good recommendation on the funding of the police force. There is no way the police will be able to perform effectively if they are not funded. And security matter is a very serious matter. The nation in general is now charged. So no amount is too much for us to devote to the maintenance of security. So I will suggest that the committee's report on the use or utilization of excess crude oil be adopted by this Senate as a resolution and be sent to the executive. Thank you.
Senator Akume.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, Senator George Akume, Benue Northwest. Mr. President, I want to commend this committee working very fast to come up with this report. Mr. President, we had commended you before for sending the Senate Ad hoc Committee on Security, Architecture, Infrastructure to Benue State. And they did a lot of work. That committee is headed by the leader of the Senate, and Senator Abu Ibrahim, a very distinguished Nigerian, is also a member of that committee. Mr. President, I've gone through this summary, I've gone through this report. What I want to say is that this report would have been more rounded if the governor, who has been so massively accused by the IGP, was also invited to make input into this. The committee would have had the opportunity to interact with him. I am informed that the mandate of this committee was restricted to the office and person of the IGP. And the IGP said, on this, noting what was happening in Benue State, he moved immediately to Benue State. He didn't move to Benue State on his own. Following outcries throughout the country, the president, and from the Senate, the president directed him to relocate to Benue State for, I think, 1 week. That's the IG. He went to Benue State. He was there for 1 day. He spent 2 days in Nasarawa, and he left. His comments have always been very jaundiced. They are not based on professional soundness, and they do not show any detachment and impartiality. As far as this issue is concerned, Mr. President, this is what I want to invite your attention and the attention of this distinguished chamber to page 3. To page 3. Subsection 4, that on the strength of claims by the Benue State government at the stakeholders meeting, alleging that there exists armed militia camped in Tuga in our local government of Nasarawa State, are waiting to unleash mayhem on Benue people, he further visited Nasarawa State for facts finding and engagement with stakeholders there, where he found that those claims were untrue. This is not true. What he's saying is not true. They have amassed there. Every security agency has made comments on this. Huge numbers are there, and many of them are from outside the country, and they are armed with assault weaponry systems. It is unfair to this country for the IG to make this comment. Now, what the governor said is not true. It's not, what he's saying is not true. What the governor said is true. And it is from there that they move. And we have seen video clips where they are moving to Benue and so on. Very well armed. So, Mr. President, so much has been made of 5 persons arrested with assault weapons AK-47. In Benue State, they said they are livestock guards. There are 5, and this has been the issue that has been repeatedly made media everywhere in Benue State. But we have thousands who are moving with AK-47 freely, and they have not been arrested. As we speak,
people are still being killed in Benue State, in Nasarawa State, and in Taraba, and Zamfara. He said it here. It is not because we are talking anything that is out of the ordinary. We are simply saying that there are armed people who are going around killing our people. It has nothing to do, for me, it has nothing to do with religion. It has everything to do with mischief, and perhaps it is economic deterministic. Mr. President, the IG has not been fair to the Nigerian people whom he has sworn to an oath to serve. All of us take our oath using the Constitution. We are determined to preserve, to promote, and to protect the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And that Constitution guarantees all of us the right to life. So something is going fundamentally wrong. And if the IG says this, are we sure he will even implement the directives of the president? Mr. President, we see how those who have been arrested will be prosecuted, but honestly, thousands of people who are moving with arms, going about freely with arms, have not been arrested. They have not, and that is why they continue to move freely and to kill. Well, Mr. President, nobody would want to tolerate inflammatory statements. We love this country. As leaders, we are always enjoined to do what is right. We must promote what we think will promote the unity of this country. Every day we come here, you read that prayer to promote the unity, stability of this country. That is what all of us are committed to. And our actions, based on objective reality, should testify to this. Mr. President, we said here before that you have massive proliferation of arms and ammunition in this country. This is not the first time we are doing this, but we remember that in the past the military set up a special task force to work towards demilitarization of these illegal arms in our country. Not much has been achieved, and it is becoming worse now, particularly with the collapse of the dictatorial regimes in North Africa. Arms are everywhere, and whoever can afford it can purchase these arms. And so the federal government has quite a lot to do in that direction, and that is why the decision of the Senate to hold a security summit is very, very timely and to be supported by all. Mr. President, before I sit down once again, I want to commend you for setting up this committee, and I believe at the end of the day, once these issues are properly implemented, we begin to have peace. Nobody is at peace today in this country. I want to thank you so much for this opportunity to make my comments.
Yeah, distinguished colleagues, first of all, Senator Abu Ibrahim's report as observed by the DSP, I think there's no doubt about it that it is incomplete because there are areas of the observation there about the comments of the governor of the Benue was not given an opportunity to comment. The only reason why I invited last Senator Akume to speak was I think that is the closest we could hear of the views of the governor of Benue, but even his own explanation does not explain that. I would have allowed contribution from Senator Wakil, Senator Manager, Senator all others I want to speak, But I think why don't we keep our comments? Let Senator Abu Ibrahim go back and complete his exercise and present a complete report, and at that time I'll accept contributions for everybody, and I think that's the way forward. Thank you. The Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President,
distinguished colleagues, Senator Peter Warasi and Senator Nyako. Senator Nyako, please, I've ruled on this. This report cannot be taken as a report. We have said it's incomplete, so there's no point for us to get all worked up about it. A proper report will be presented to us and we can contribute at that point. Thank you. Leader of the Senate. Committee, let us give you one week. Is that good enough for you? Senator Abu Ibrahim.
I think that we are only directed to call the IG and submit the report today. That direction came on Thursday. We have to work on Monday, well, Friday, Sunday, Monday to produce the report. Now, since we asked us to call the governor, we'll call him. But it's not the fault of the committee.
No, understand. So how long do you need? 1 week? Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the first order of the day is a motion standing in the name of Senator John Eno and 2 others on the influx of refugees from the Republic of Cameroon to some border communities in Cross River State and its attendant security fallout. Mr. President,
Mr. President, my name is John Mawanen of Cross River Central. Mr. President, this motion is on the influx of refugees from the Republic of Cameroon to some border communities in Cross River State and its attendant security fallouts. It's sponsored by me and co-sponsored by my 2 other colleague senators. The Senate notes that the current agitation for the independence of Southern Cameroon has caused the influx of refugees to some border communities in Cross River State, and over 6,000 of the refugees are currently squatting at Obanliku, Boki, Etung, and Ikom local government areas of the state. The Senate further notes that as at 16 December 2017, the United Nations Human Rights Commission had biometrically registered 10,000 arrivals in remote areas of Nigeria's Cross River State and indicated that thousands more are awaiting registration. The Senate is worried about the precarious situation of women and children, which make up over 80% of the approximately 10,000 registered refugees. And of these persons are boys and girls who fled to Nigeria unaccompanied and separated children from their parents and are therefore vulnerable. Further worried that the lack of work for women combined with the overstretched reception facilities creates a higher risk for prostitution, sexual and gender-based violence. Concerned that some school buildings now serve as temporary refugee camps, which are uninhabitable, and families that make use of them are deprived of private space and the right to family dignity. Further concerned that most of the refugees are ill and lack basic needs, while some are expectant mothers without medical care. Aware that some of them are currently accommodated by members of these border communities, with some households taking care of about 20 refugees with their facilities overstretched. Further aware that the refugees' population increase on a daily basis and has therefore put further pressure on the demand for medical treatment, shelter, food, mattresses, beddings, towels, toiletries, drugs, and other basic needs. Informed that on January 25, 2018, more than 80 Cameroonian soldiers with various weapons crossed the international border of the Danare border axis and abducted 5 natives. observed that this is a calculated assault stroke offense from the Cameroonian military of Nigeria and an outright defiance of Nigeria's territorial sovereignty, not minding the consequences of crossing the international boundary to carry out intimidations and harassment on the already alarmed citizens of Febuary with warnings of further assault. Worried that the current situation being faced by both the refugees and host other communities, if not tackled urgently, may result in both an outbreak of epidemic and a serious humanitarian crisis, and further escalate the already troubling security situation among these borders. Accordingly resolves 1. To call on the Nigerian military authorities to increase military presence and intensify border patrol within the area to prevent further acts of trespass by the Cameroon soldiers. 2. Call on the Minister of Foreign Affairs to urgently liaise with his Cameroonian counterpart to secure the release of these innocent Nigerians. 3. Urge the international community to wade into the festering crisis in Cameroon to bring a lasting solution. 4. Call on Nigeria and Cameroon to strengthen the capacity of the Nigeria-Cameroon Trans-Border Security Committee aimed at addressing emerging trans-border security issues confronting the two countries. 5. Call on the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, UNHCR, to intensify ongoing efforts aimed at protecting the Cameroonian refugees and assist in their voluntary repatriation, local integration, or resettlement. And 6. Urge all relevant agencies of government saddled with the responsibility of managing emergencies, such as the National Emergency Management Agency NEMA and the State Emergency Management Agency SEMA, to intensify their remedial efforts for providing relief materials to the refugees. I so move, Mr. President.
Senator Shewsani.
Mr. President, I stand as Comrade Senator Shewsani to second this motion on the situation in southern Cameroon and its attendant crisis. Mr. President, there are 3 issues here. First is the tension, the violence, and the conflicts in southern Cameroon. Secondly is the refugee influx from Cameroon to Nigeria. And thirdly is the incursion by the Cameroonian gendarmes to Nigeria. Mr. President, it has been over 5 decades since the plebiscite in southern Cameroon. And Cameroonians from that part of the country, the English-speaking Cameroon, opted to side and to be in Cameroon. But the images and reports we have been getting in the last few years cause for concern. We have seen the systematic torture and human rights violations by the government of Cameroon against the people of southern Cameroon. It is of concern to Nigeria that there is a fire next door. There is a need for Nigeria to act. We cannot pretend that there is no problem within our border. We cannot pretend that we are distant from that very problem. And the very fact that the Cameroonian gendarmes have the audacity to cross into our country to effect arrest and unleash terror against both refugees and our nationals, we cannot in any possible way stand neutral to this. Mr. President, I will say this. The UNHCR report on the situation in southern Cameroon demands that Nigeria takes a proactive step. The violence, the injury, and the destabilization that is going on down there, if care is not taken, it can go out of hand and spill over in every possible way to our country. Mr. President, southern Cameroon is of concern not just to Nigeria, but it's a regional concern, it's a continental concern, and it's a global concern. I think the ECOWAS, the African Union,
and all head of states and men of goodwill in Africa need to take this problem of Southern Cameroon very seriously. That we sit down here with all the security agencies we have, the Army, the Navy, and the police, the Air Force, and intelligence agencies, and Cameroon can send in troops to our country. I think this is something we should take more than a passing interest. Mr. President, I think this motion should be given all the necessary attention and action that it deserves. In the 21st century Africa, we should be seen to be our brother's keepers. The need for African leaders to respect the fundamental rights of citizens and respect the ethnic nationalities of citizens and their independence or autonomy within that very region which they reside in is very important. The African Union, the ECOWAS, must take this issue very seriously. People are being killed, people are being arrested, people are being intimidated on a daily basis. And we sit down. And of worst things is the fact that we even deported forcefully some of the Cameroonians that crossed in here seeking for safety and shelter. That is a bad thing to do. Mr. President, this motion is a call for Nigeria to take responsibility, that there is a fire next door and the need for us to intervene. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Barrow Jibrin. I represent Cameroon North. Mr. President, let me commend my colleagues and Eno for bringing this motion. It's quite apt because I think it's quite improper for the Cameroonian military to move into our country and not only harass our citizens, but to even abduct some of them, crossing them over, taking them over across our border to the Cameroon. This is really bad. And it's also bad for them to come in to attempt to arrest those who came into our country as refugees for whatever reason. And having said so, I want to disagree with my good neighbor and friend that we should go in to condemn what is happening in Cameroon. Cameroon is a sovereign nation, and I think it's not proper for us as Nigerians. What we need to do, of course, is to call on AU to intervene, to find ways of reconciling, the government and those who are opposed to it, so that peace could reign in that country. But to begin to condemn the Cameroonian government for what is happening within its territory as a sovereign nation, I think is not something we should do in this chamber. We should respect the sovereign. We should respect that Cameroon is a sovereign nation, and whatever happens within that country is within the government of that country to take care of itself. So I do not agree with the notion that we should condemn what is happening in Cameroon. We should ask as those who will facilitate peace for peace to reign in that country. But we should condemn the idea of coming into our country to harass our citizens or to harass refugees who came into our country for safety. I so submit, Mr. President.
Senator Okrupi.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues. My name remains Senator Okrupi, representing Qatar Central. Mr. President, let me start by congratulating my colleague and my chairman for bringing a very, very important motion. This motion certainly affects all states which are border around. This kind of motion is brought affected people like Qatar State, Zamfara State, Borno State, Benue State, and all other states. Because all these states, they are having the same problem all over. We are now having this problem, especially in Qatar State. Let me mention Qatar in particular. All the people who are coming from Niger, most of the people, now we are having problem with them. They came, some of them, they are armed robbers, some of the evil that Boko Haram. And unfortunately, you can hardly identify whether they are from there or from the person who speaks the same language, we share the same religion. So this motion, I think, is very important. I want everybody to support this motion, and I think it's a very straightforward motion. I so submit, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
Anybody against this? Senator Samegu.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Sam Ebu represent Ebonyi North, Central District. Mr. President, I want to lay and support the motion as moved by my brother, Senator John Eno. But let it be known that Nigerian territorial integrity has been violated by the Cameroonian soldiers. This is not the first time. This has happened severally, and yet no explanation has come to us. This Senate will be failing in its responsibility if we do not invite the Minister of Defense to tell us, to brief us, why another country should unilaterally invade our country under any pretext without our response, without any response. As of today, we do not know whether they did it because there's an agreement, either bilateral agreement, between Cameroon and Nigeria. We also know a few days ago there was a multinational force between Cameroon and Nigeria on tackling Boko Haram. This is something they have done, yet we have not been briefed. This incessant attack and intimidation of Nigerians by Cameroonian soldiers should properly be looked into. I think, Mr. President, before we start asking our Nigerian soldiers to straighten our borders, let us first of all know why that should happen. And I think the best step we should take as the Senate is to invite the Minister of Defense to brief this Senate to tell us why this has happened and it could not to happen. So, Mr. President, that's my submission.
Distinguished, we'll go to the prayers then. Prayer 1, call on Nigerian military authorities to increase military presence and intensify border patrol within the area to prevent further acts trespassed by the Cameroonian soldiers. Those in favor of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Prayer 2, I've already ruled on that. Prayer 2, call on the Minister of Foreign Affairs to urgently liaise with his Cameroonian counterpart to secure the release of these innocent Nigerians. Those in favor of prayer 2 say aye. Those against say nay. Let's have it. Prayer 3, urge the international community to wade into the festering crisis in Cameroon to bring a lasting solution. Why are we urging international community? Are we giving up with our own bilateral ways of addressing this? Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. Nays are. Prayer 3, call on Nigeria and Cameroon to strengthen the capacity of Nigeria-Cameroon Transborder Security Committee aimed at addressing emerging transborder security issues confronting two countries. Those in favor of prayer 4 say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Prayer 5, call on the United Nations High Commission for Refugees to intensify ongoing efforts aimed at protecting the Cameroonian refugees and assist in their voluntary repatriation, local integration, or resettlement. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. As and prayer 6, urge all relevant agencies of government saddled with responsibilities of managing emergencies such as National Emergency Management Agency NEMA, State Emergency Management SEMA, to intensify the remedial efforts of providing relief materials to the refugees. Those in favor of this prayer 6 say aye. Those against say nay. Yes, Dr. Senator Samegu.
Thank you, Mr. President. My additional prayer will be to invite the Minister of Defense to brief the appropriate Senate committee on the trespass by the Cameroonian soldiers.
Secondly, Senator Jubril.
I am Baro Jibrin, Kano North. I stand to second the motion heavily moved by Senator Sam Egu. I say second.
Senator Sam Egu, what's your prayer again? To invite the Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of additional prayers, the Minister of Defense will be invited to brief the appropriate committee on the situation of the trespass that we reported. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second order of the day is the second reading of the Institute of Mediators and Conciliators Establishment Sector Bill 2018. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Tuesday, the 11th of July 2017. Mr. President, may we invite Senator Ike Okwaramadu, the Deputy President of the Senate, to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Deputy Senate President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our very distinguished colleagues. This is a very straightforward bill, and I'll try as much as possible to keep the lead debate simple and short. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I take the liberty to lead the debate on a bill of an act to provide for the establishment of Institute of Mediators and Conciliators and for other related matters, which bill is hereinafter referred to by its short title as the Institute of Mediators and Conciliators Bill 2018. Background. The Institute is the umbrella body of practitioners in Nigeria that regulates and sets standards for the practice of mediation and conciliation. It also trains and inducts candidates as professional mediators and conciliators.
That's what.
Purpose of the Institute. The Institute of Mediators and Conciliators is a body established in 1999 for the purpose of 1. Training persons aspiring to be professional negotiators, mediators, conciliators, and peace builders across Nigeria, and induct them into the Institute. 2. Promoting, regulating, and building capacity for use of mediation as an alternative dispute resolution mechanism in the effective administration of justice, enhance law and order, and promote access to justice in Nigeria. Promoting integration of continuous dialogue, peace building, and popular participation in policies of governance. The need for mediation. Litigation is the most recognized form of formal dispute resolution throughout the world. It is publicly financed and administered, carried out in a public forum, and is bound by rigid rules about processes, evidence, and testimony. It is not voluntary. Parties have to appear when required or suffer some penalty. The decision is binding, though it may be subject to appeal. The decision is usually based on law and precedence, subject to human error. Being formal and very technical, court procedure is inflexible. This greatly reduces the ability of litigants to participate directly in the resolution of their disputes. The time taken to obtain a decision is often measured in years. It is therefore expensive and time-consuming. In fact, the value of many disputes is usually exceeded by the eventual cost and time of the resolution. The adversarial processes leave wounds, damage, and even destroy relationships. It is an open secret that the adversarial process usually leaves the parties exhausted, embittered, and often impoverished. Litigation is suited mainly for criminal, constitutional, and other right-based issues. Let us examine the difference between mediation and arbitration. Arbitration was devised to overcome some of the problems encountered in litigation. Arbitration still empowers a third party to decide a dispute, though it is more likely that the arbitrator would have subject area expertise, which makes the decision more palatable, as the arbitrator would better understand issues at stake, since he is able to speak the same language as the disputing parties. The decision made according to the relevant law is binding and is not normally subject to appeal. Like litigation, the process of arbitration is adversarial and mostly formal, but the proceedings take place in private and the arbitrator is usually selected by the parties. Unfortunately, arbitration has become very similar to litigation in both cost and time. So mediation is very different from arbitration. A mediator does not impose his or her opinion on the parties. He builds rapport with the parties and encourages and empowers them to use their own resources to resolve the dispute. The benefit of this is that with the resolution emanating from the parties, compliance is higher. The process is non-binding unless and until an agreement is reached. The agreement then becomes an enforceable contract. Until that happens, the parties may walk away from the mediation at any time, as entering the process itself does not bind them to settlement. Mediation skills are large skills for building and sustaining relationships. The mediator helps the parties to try to reach a negotiated settlement. He or she provides a clear head, impartiality,
process management, encouragement and optimism, and brings hope to a situation that may seem hopeless, while leaving the problem and settlement decision firmly in the hands of the parties. Need for regulation. Sequent to the above, the mediator requires more skills than the arbitrator or the judge. There is therefore need to train practitioners to carry out the process in an assured, confident and professional manner. There is even greater need to regulate the practice, as an ineffective mediator may further aggravate or escalate the conflict. The IMC is the umbrella regulatory body of the practitioner. It is strategically positioned to promote peace and conflict resolution in our homes, workplaces and communities. The skill promoted are relief skills, and in addition to equipping our members and the members with skills, they are deployed for professional growth and development. These skills have a direct benefit for such members in their personal lives. The structure of this institute is here presented. You have the general body, the governing council, body of trustees, body of patrons, registrar, training, faculty. The size of the institute has more than 6,000 members spread across the country, and coming from different backgrounds, we have judges, lawyers, legislators, engineers, architects, doctors, and administrators. The branches are scattered all over the country. The purpose of the bill, of what the bill seeks to achieve, is all hereby stated. The bill has 23 clauses with 3 schedules divided into 6 parts. Part 1 deals with scope of application of the bill, establishment and management of the Institute of Mediators and Conciliators chartered. Other clauses in the part deals with head office of the Institute, officers of the Institute, composition and tenure of office of the council members, powers of the council, and appointment of president of the Institute. Part 2 deals with financial provisions. Part 3 deals with membership of the Institute, registration of members, and application of bill to unenrolled persons. Part 4 deals with registration of mediators and conciliators, approval of qualifications and training institutions, and registration of organizations, etc. Part 5 deals with establishment, powers and procedure of investigation, panel and disciplinary tribunals. Part 6 deals with the miscellaneous interpretation and citation. The provisions include rules regarding practice fees, training and subscription, confirmation of rules and regulation by the council, publication of rules, etc., savings, and transitional provisions. Cost implications. Distinguished colleagues, the enactment of this bill into law to establish the Institute of Mediators and Conciliators does not have any cost implication on government. The Institute will be self-funded virtually. The Institute has been in existence for over 10 years. The bill is imperative for consideration by the National Assembly to fill the gap in the establishment and development of the Institute, which is currently affected by absence of a statutory framework. This bill is necessary, it is timely, and desirable to strengthen the Institute to function more effectively, both locally and internationally. I therefore humbly invite our colleagues to support this bill.
Senator Gubri.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Ibrahim Gobir, representing Sokoto East. Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues, this is a very important bill, and I rise in the support of this bill, because the bill has been in existence since 1999, and therefore there is no problem with it. The only thing is to give it a legal framework so that it can function, to regulate, and then be able to be mediators and conciliators. So this one is very important because it's a non-binding process, because you don't have to pay money. You don't have to impose your own will on anybody. 2 people or whatever parties they have to agree on whatever it is, and then at the end they come up to a conclusion without any fight, without any legal battle. So I therefore support this bill. It's a very straightforward one, and we don't have to waste time in this passage. Thank you very much.
There's no objection. Let me put those in favor that this bill read the second time say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, the bill for an act to establish the Chartered Institute of Mediators and Conciliations and for other related matters 2018, second reading.
A bill for an act to establish Chartered Institute of Mediators and Conciliators and for other related matters 2018, second reading taken. This bill is referred to Committee on Establishment and Public Service Matters, report back in 4 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, Very distinguished colleagues, the third order of the day is second reading of the Chemical Weapon Prohibition Bill 2018. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Tuesday, the 5th of December 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Robert Boroughes to move the motion for the bill to be read the second time.
Senator Boroughes.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, my name is Robert Ajaero, representing the North Senatorial District. It is my pleasure to lead the debate on the bill for an act to domesticate and implement the Chemical Weapons Convention in Nigeria. The federal government approved the establishment of the Council on National Authority on Chemical Weapons Convention, which is to coordinate and oversee the implementation of the Chemical Weapons Convention in Nigeria by Circular 5975-S.1/3 of 18th March 1994. The Interministerial Council is made up of about 25 MDAs/stakeholders and located in the political affairs of the Office of the Secretary of Government of the Federation, with the Permanent Secretary on Political and Economic Affairs as the chairman. The Political Affairs Office/National Authority on Chemical and Biological Weapons Convention also serve as the Secretariat of the Council, which helps to facilitate Nigerian fulfillment of its obligation as a state party to the Chemical Weapons Convention. Similarly, by October 2003, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation approved that the Secretary National Authority on Chemical Weapons Convention should take on the additional responsibility for the implementation of the Biological and Toxic Weapons Convention in Nigeria. Since then, the implementation of both the Chemical Weapons Convention and the Biological and Toxic Weapons Convention are supervised by the Secretariat now designated as the National Authority on Chemical and Biological Weapons Convention under the Political Economic Affairs Office of the Secretary of Government of the Federation. Nigeria signed the Chemical Weapons Convention on 13th January 1993 and ratified same on 1st of March 1999. The main objective of the convention is to prohibit the production, acquisition, stockpiling, retention, transfer, and use of chemical weapons, as well as providing for their destruction. The convention also encourages free trade among state parties, as well as provides for international cooperation and exchange of scientific and technical information for purposes not prohibited under the convention. State parties to the Chemical Convention are required as part of their national implementation measures to establish or designate a national authority that will serve as a national focal point to ensure effective coordination of the two conventions as spelled out in the Chemical Weapons Convention Bill. In line with this crucial application of the federal government approved the establishment of the National Authority on Chemical and Biological Weapons Convention as a unit under the Political Affairs Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Abuja. The Secretary to the National Authority of the rank of Deputy Director, who reports directly to the Permanent Secretary, Political Affairs and Economic Affairs, who is the Chairman. The National Authority on Chemical and Biological Weapons Convention is a unit under the Political and Economic Affairs of the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. The NAC is responsible for the implementation of the two conventions, that is Chemical Weapons and the Biological Weapons and Toxic Weapons Convention. The broad mandate of the National Authority Office and the Biological Weapons Convention is to prohibit the production, acquisition, stockpiling, retention, transfer of chemical and biological weapons to provide for their destruction, and as such it is expected to perform series of other activities through obligations under the convention geared towards universal disarmament in the actualization of its mandate as follows. 1. To ensure the domestication of the Chemical Weapons Convention and Biological and Toxic Weapons Convention, which Nigeria has signed and ratified. 2. To host stakeholder meetings on chemical and biological weapons quarterly. 3. Industrial visitation and inspection of the chemical industry twice a year. 4. The Chemical Weapons Convention technical expert meetings to hold quarterly. 5. Training of personnel of the National Authority. 6. Attendance of the OPC OPCW Executive Council meetings in annual meetings in The Hague, Netherlands, and also the regional level meeting in Africa. 7. To attend the United Nations General Assembly on issues of chemical weapons convention and biological and toxic weapons convention under general disarmament. And 8. Payments of annual contribution and subvention to the chemical weapons convention. One major challenge faced by the national authority and the biological work convention is the inability of the 7th, not the 7th National Assembly to conclude the CWC and BWC laws before the expiration of that assembly. The bill on domestication of the CWC has been reviewed and is currently before the National Assembly. It is pertinent to indicate that the bill had been presented to the National Assembly previously, but was never concluded before the expiration of the Assembly. The importance of the CWC bill presented before the National Assembly cannot be overemphasized in view of current security challenges in the country. It is hoped that the two chambers will conclude the passage of the CWC bill in 2018, while the Federal Ministry of Justice is about to conclude that bill. I will go to paragraph 6. The advantages of national legislation on CWC enacting laws penalizing activities prohibited by the CWC present person from exploiting gaps in the state parties' legal and law enforcement framework. National implementation legislation gives domestic law enforcement authorities a tool to combat and prosecute criminal territories and crime relating to chemical weapons. National implementation legislation makes it easier for state parties to CWC to enjoy provisions of assistance and protection against chemical weapons threats from the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, the UN agency based in The Hague, Netherlands. It also makes the state party and country to enjoy rare privileges of being a member of the OPCW. Gains and benefits to Nigeria. Since Nigeria signed and ratified the convention in 1993 and 1999 respectively, there has been a regular member of the OPCW Executive Council. Only 45 countries are members of the Executive Council out of the total 190 state parties that have signed and ratified the CWC. Nigeria is the present chair of Open-Headed Working Group on Terrorism. Nigeria is presently the legal advisor of the Organization for the Prohibition of the Chemical Weapons. Numerous Nigerian scientists have enjoyed technical assistance to training from the OPCW, capacity training, that is the Nigerian Custom, NAFDAC, Universities and Research Institute. Nigeria was a member of the OPCW Scientific Advisory Board of 7. In view of the numerous advantages and gains derivable from implementation of the national domestic legislation of CWC, especially the access to any form of protection and assistance from international communities to donor agencies in the possible event of threat of chemical weapons, it is horrible and wise for Nigeria to expedite the process of passing into law of the Chemical Weapons Convention Bill, due to the Biological Weapons Convention, which bill is still being updated. Mr. President, the Chief College, having presented this little bit, I will urge my colleagues to please.
Senator David Umaru.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is David Umaru. I represent Niger East Senatorial District. Mr. President, I wish to lend my support to this very important effort by the distinguished Senator Borofis. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria requires that for any treaty to have the force of law in Nigeria, it must be domesticated. And that is the process that this bill seeks to achieve. It is unfortunate that since 1999, when this convention was ratified, it has remained undomesticated, despite the fact that this country has been faced with a lot of challenges regarding security. Terrorism has been one of the biggest scourge of our time, and I think this bill will go a long way into to having a structure that will address and reduce the possibility of having chemical weapon attack in this country. I therefore urge that this distinguished Senate should pass this bill the second time. Thank you, Mr. President. And
distinguished colleagues, I'll put the question, and those in favor that this bill read second time say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to prohibit the use of chemical weapon or for other matters connected therewith, 2018, second reading.
A bill for an act to prohibit the use of chemical weapon and for other matters connected therewith, 2018, second reading taken. This bill is referred to Committee on Science and Technology, report back in 4 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fourth order of the day, second reading of the National Commission on Child Destitution in Nigeria Establishment, etc. Bill 2018. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Thursday, the 6th of July 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Ali Wamako to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Senator Ali Wamako, Sokoto North.
Thank you, Mr. President. I remain Aliu M. Wamako, North Central District of Sokoto State. Mr. President, my dear colleagues, permit me to lead the debate on general principles of the bill to enact provide for the establishment of National Commission for Child Destitution in Nigeria, which I, along with 38 other centers, sponsored. Mr. President, the bill was read on the was passed in this chamber on Tuesday, 26th of July 2017. Essentially, the bill seeks to provide for an act provide for the establishment of a National Commission on Child Destitution in Nigeria, service intervention program to eradicate, rehabilitate, and prohibit the menace of child destitution in Nigeria. Mr. President, the need for an act to establish the Commission cannot come at a better time, and it is in accordance with Section 6, Section 1D, Section 2D, and Section 17, Section 3, E and F, and also Section 18 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. We are only noticing to the negative consequences of child destitution to the society, particularly over the last 10 years. The malady of child destitution in Nigeria has aggravated the menace of Boko Haram, provided fodder for political violence and militancy, provided willing foot soldiers to ethno-religious crisis, and acted as a catalyst to a variety of other social problems. Mr. President, sir, we can ill afford to look on while our society totters towards destructive tendencies, as that of destitute children who grow into adulthood with nothing to lose, even if society conflagrates. As the conscience of our democracy, we must ensure, without equivocation, every child destitute grows into adulthood educated, ambitious, purposeful, and with a sense of belonging. These destitute children are out of school, and according to the available UNICEF statistics, there are over 10.5 million out-of-school children in Nigeria. Out of the 10.5 million children in the country who are out of school, 60% are in the north. It's no wonder then that given the ecological problem of desertification and rural urban drift in the north, groups like Boko Haram have ceaseless army of uneducated, hopeless and rejected youth to recruit from. A 2014 special report of the United States Initiative Institute of Peace, USIP, titled "Why Do Youth Join Boko Haram?" states that surveys, interviews, and focus groups conducted in Nigeria in 2013 suggest that poverty, unemployment, illiteracy, and weak family structures make or contribute to make young men vulnerable to radicalization. A trend preachers capitalize on the situation by preaching an extreme version of religious teaching and conveying a narrative of the government as weak and corrupt. Armed groups such as Boko Haram, can then recruit and train youth for activities ranging from errand run to suicide bombings. Mr. President, my dear colleagues, an act provided for the establishment of National Commission on Child Destitution would address the maladies associated with the child destitution. The Commission shall have powers to draw up generally acceptable guidelines on how to eradicate child destitution, draw up an acceptable curriculum of activities for destitute children, disburse funds and monitor proper utilization, and do anything which, in the opinion of the Commission, is necessary to ensure efficient performance of its functions under the Act. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the objective and function of this Commission which the bill seeks to address are, among others: 1. Formulate policy guidelines and strategies for successful eradication of child destitution in Nigeria. 2. Organize mass sensitization campaign for enlightened society the dangers of child destitution throughout Nigeria. 3. Advise the federal government on the funding and orderly rehabilitation of victims of child destitution. 4. Identify and coordinate the activities of stakeholders who are directly involved in the practice of all forms of institutionalized child destitution with a view to reforming it. 5. Collect and prepare after consultation with the states and local governments and other stakeholders. Periodic master plans for the total eradication of child destitution in Nigeria include areas of possible intervention in early childhood care and development centers. And 6. Recommends the federal government the possibility of co-opting identified destitute children eradication centers into the federal government compulsory free universal basic education policy. The Commission again will create an avenue for rehabilitation and resettlement in terms of educational institutions, empowerment and skills acquisition, etc. With these underprivileged children who find themselves in this unfortunate situation. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, other highlights of the bill include the establishment and the maintenance of a fund by the Commission which shall consist of: 1. Initial take-off grant for the federal government. 2. Annual subvention for the federal government. 3. State counterpart funding to be deducted as source at 0.5% of their statutory allocation. 4. 1.0% of education tax fund and the back fund. 5. Subject to Section 12 of the Act, all other sums accruing to the Commission by way of grants and aid, gifts, testimony contributions, endowments, and donations made to the Commission. 6. Such other sums as may accrue to the Commission from time to time. Mr. President, my dear colleagues, the continued existence of this menace is fraught with attendant social, educational, economic, and legal implications to our society, some of which are as follows. 1. Trafficking in children and exposing them to dangers of negative influence by society. 2. Contravening the Child Labor Act by allowing these children to take menial jobs in socially hostile environments to make a living. 3. Contravening the constitutional provision of the federal government for compulsory free universal education to enable these children to become useful citizens to the nation. 4. Destroying the moral side of these children by exposing them to negative influence of social vices. This makes them willing tools in the hands of prostitutes, robbers, drug peddlers, or addicts, and other social miscreants, thereby adding the number of criminals in our society in contravention of the relevant section of the criminal and penal codes. 5. Exposing them to political violence and other tools for mob action in the event of social unrest. 6. Multiplying the number of employed, unemployed, and retarding the federal government drive for still action in society. Mr. President, my dear colleagues, establishing the Commission on Child Destitution cannot come at a better time than now, when our beloved nation is battling with one social crisis or another. I follow you to therefore in good conscience appreciate the gravity of the situation and consider that this bill for the good of humanity and our future generation. and in line with the city's attended rules, financial consortium for the establishment of this commission is hereby attached. I pray for your expedient consideration and thank you for your attention. Thank you, Mr. President.
Leader of the Senate.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues. Ahmed Lawan, I represent Yobe North. Mr. President, let me congratulate the sponsor of the bill, Senator Aliu Wamako, for sponsoring this very important bill. For long, I'm a believer, in fact, a proponent of doing away with this serious menace which has serious socio-economic and even security implications in our country. In northern Nigeria alone, we have almost 13 to 14 million school-age children who are not in school. And they go through the so-called Almajiri system, and that system cannot work today. It worked maybe some 50 years, 100 years ago. It has to be properly reformed and streamlined to keep what we think is precious to us. Mr. President, the Boko Haram, for example, that the sponsor referred to, started with people who had no formal education, largely, who are brainwashed, and at the end of the day, we have a very serious security situation in Nigeria. In fact, we are now maybe the second most security-prone country in the world, maybe after Afghanistan or Somalia. So we need to have very dedicated, customized, and committed body, agency, or the commission as proposed here to ensure that we tackle this menace frontally. I believe that the northern state governors particularly have a very strong and central role to play in this, because the majority of those who are out of school are in northern Nigeria. The federal government can have this law, but the states have a lot of input to put into this to make it work. Some state governors tried in the states, but this is not something that one state can deal with it, even within its own state. Majority of people, the children in the streets, do not belong to those states. They travel from different parts of the country. Maybe someone in Maiduguri could be coming from Sokoto or Zamfara or Katsina, and someone in Katsina could be from Yobe or from Borno. So you have this necessity that our state governors, particularly starting from northern state governors, need to start dealing with this in a much more holistic, collaborative manner so that we are able to deal with the problem. The previous administration unfortunately had a misconception of what the Almajiri problem was when they embarked on spending billions of naira on building so-called Almajiri schools. Most, if not all, the Almajiri schools that were built, and about 100 of them across the country, have no anyone inside them. In my hometown, I have an Almajiri school, but it's inhabited by crocodiles and some kind of reptiles. No one goes there because the concept itself was faulty and flawed. So we need to have something that is based on very solid concept of how to deal with this destitution that our children suffer. With this, I want to add all my colleagues, and I was not partisan when I said they built 100 that are not functional anymore. Nobody should respond to that, especially the minority whip. You are gingering. So I was not partisan in speaking. I am only trying to say that we should learn lessons from what happened at that period. Thank you very much.
Senator,
thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Muhammad, Mr. President, I rise to lend my support. It's a very important debate. Firstly, there is a very serious danger of having over 10 million school children that are supposed to be in school and they are out of school. This figure is buttressed by UNICEF. It's further confirmed by National Office of Statistics. In fact, the National Office of Statistics is saying that there are over 16 million children out of school. Mr. President, Nigeria is the only country in the world where we have this serious problem. So the establishment of this commission will certainly address this menace. And Mr. President, I will urge that we should encourage synergy between what the federal government is doing and what the state government is doing and also what the local government is doing. And perhaps even the community, they are supposed to be involved because this is something that has to do with the culture of the people. So the community has to be involved in terms of social mobilization. We have to sensitize them very well to understand what the menace is. Otherwise, it will not succeed. And this is why even the universal basic education did not succeed. The effort made by the previous administration in building Al-Majali's classrooms all over the country did not succeed simply because the communities are not involved. So there is need to involve both the community, the local government, and even the state government. So I urge my colleagues to support this very important bill. It is very apt and timely. Thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, let me put the question. Those in favor that this bill read second time say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the National Commission on Child Destitution in Nigeria and for other connected purposes, 2018, second reading.
A bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the National Commission of Child Destitution in Nigeria and for other connected purposes, 2018, second reading taken. This bill is referred to the Committee on Establishment and Public Service Matters and brought back and forth. Commend Senator Wamako for this very important bill, which definitely with all the contributions, I think is timely and go a long way in addressing this great problem that we are seeing besides we're destitute children in our country. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fifth order of the day, the second reading of the Federal Referral Hospital Establishment Bill 2018. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Thursday, the 21st of December 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Adamalero to move the motion for the bill to be read second time.
Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I remain Mohammed Adamalero representing Kebbi Central. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, thank you for the opportunity to lead the debate on the general principles of the Federal Referral Hospitals Establishment, etc. Bill 2018. You recall that this bill was read for the first time on 21st December 2017. The bill is aimed at providing the legal and institutional framework for the operation of 6 state-of-the-art federal referral hospitals in the country. The bill seeks to strengthen and cure the inadequacy and inefficiency of the federal government-owned tertiary health facilities in Nigeria. It is also aimed at bridging the existing gap between primary/secondary health care and tertiary health care delivery in Nigeria. It will reduce the drain in our foreign exchange because it will provide all the health care required by Nigerians locally instead of traveling to Europe, America, or Middle East for medical treatment. There are 20 teaching hospitals, 22 federal medical centers in 26 states of the Federation, and 10 specialized hospitals established by the federal government of Nigeria. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, despite this large number of 52 healthcare institutions, Nigerians, particularly well-to-do individuals, still travel abroad and spend billions of dollars annually of our scarce foreign exchange, largely due to inadequate facilities and insufficient number of medical personnel that man this institution. Ironically, when one travels abroad to Europe, America, or Middle East, one sees a number of Nigerian trained medical and healthcare professionals manning various medical health institutions. This invariably means that we have not provided enabling environment to these healthcare professionals to stay at home and do their medical practice. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the bill under Clause 4 provides for the composition of the respective boards of the federal referral hospitals established by the bill with the following functions: to equip and operate the hospital so as to provide facilities for diagnosis, preventive, curative, and rehabilitative service and medical treatment. To support and provide enabling environment for medical training of personnel as the board may consider necessary. To run an effective and cost-effective medical services to Nigerians. To review and update medical findings and research from time to time. The hospital will provide services in the following specialized areas in addition to their core mandate: neurology, nephrology, cardiology, urology, orthopedics, endocrinology, pediatrics, internal medicine, oncology, radiotherapy and chemotherapy and what have you, ear, nose and throat treatment, gynecology, psychiatry, nuclear medicine, other fields of medicine that may be required by Nigerians. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, in view of the foregoing explanations, I urge you to support the speedy passage of this bill into law. Already, I have attached the compendium in compliance with Order 77, subsection 3 of the Standing Order of the Senate 2015 as amended with respect to the procedure of bills, compendium, and the consolidation, which states inter alia that on the introduction of a bill, a compendium on background information on financial implications of such bill, if passed into law, shall be delivered to all senators. The following compilation with regard to the affirmation bill is herewith presented to general information of the senators. It is worthy to note that the compilation shown below is a summary of the contemplated overhead costs, recurrent and capital expenditure with the takeoff of each of the hospital management boards. Mr. President, some of these hospitals are already existing. In fact, the federal government has already started the process as far back as 2014. But unfortunately, due to lack of funding, the whole program has been stalled. But if this bill is approved into law, it will make it possible to have these specialized hospitals that will take care of the healthcare needs of the country. So it will stop the medical tourism. And in fact, Nigeria will even be a hub for medical tourism in the West African sub-region. Mr. President, I urge my colleagues to support this bill so that it can be passed into law. Thank you very much.
Senator Omako.
Thank you, Mr. President, my respected colleagues. I stand, Mr. President, to support this very unique bill voted by Senator Adam Aleru on the special federal referral center hospitals for the 6th geographical zone of this country. Mr. President, the data as outlined by the sponsor of this bill, is quite honest and quite reliable. The sense that way back, Mr. President, in the mid-70s when I was in the US, one of the leading catalysts in the state of Albania was a Nigerian. And it is how it is across the globe. Wherever you go in some old key places, you find some key Nigerians working or manning those centers. Which means something somewhere is wrong as to why they shouldn't be allowed to come home and serve. When we were in office as deputy governor, we spotted a young child to UKIT on medical training, and he excelled as expert in kidney. And immediately after they gave him a scholarship to remain in UK, another scholarship from US, another scholarship to Canada. He now a pharmacist in Canada as an authority on kidney. And there are many other such brains around. So in addition to saving the foreign exchange on these medical trips, it's also time that Nigeria will prove to the world, yes, we are capable. Yes, we have the talent to take care of ourselves medically and otherwise. With this, Mr. President, I hereby support this bill. Thank you.
James Manja.
Mr. President, my respected colleagues, James Manager, Delta South. Mr. President, I have listened to the lead debate, and I also listened to Senator Wamako. Somehow we are all not medical doctors, the three of us. The Senate President is a medical doctor. So we have a number of medical doctors as senators who are not physically present. Even the chairman of the committee is not here. Mr. President, the idea is very good. No doubt about that. And of course sponsored by an eminent Nigerian, Your Excellency, Distinguished Senator Alero. I want to believe that the problems that we have in this country as far as the health sector is concerned, it's not lack of hospitals. Already there is a bridge. There's a bridge between primary and secondary cure, and then the tertiary one. There is a bridge, and the bridge there is the medical centers, the teaching hospitals that are bound everywhere. And the lead debate has also brought out the number of teaching hospitals that we have in the country, about 20 of them. 22 federal medical centers are also there, and then 10 specialized hospitals established by the federal government of Nigeria. And of course, the sponsor of the bill, while talking about the lead debate, he also brought out that the federal government made an attempt in 2014 to bring more of these hospitals. And because of lack of funds, they couldn't continue. I think what we need in this country is not more hospitals. Rather, we need funding of the existing hospitals that we have in this country. I think that is what we actually need. Funding is key. Not the hospitals, but how to fund the existing hospitals. That's the problem we have in this country. So if we fund the 20 teaching hospitals, the 22 federal medical centers, that is 42 of them now, and then another 10 specialized hospitals established by the federal government, bringing the total to 52. Oh, distinguished senators and Mr. President, this is to the exclusion of the other hospitals that are there in different states. So that all these hospitals, when you visit them, they have become glorified, health centers. I think that is why those who can afford it, if for any reason there are problems with their health, they have a rule of checking out and checking in. So it's not a matter of the hospitals that we need, but how to fund them. And therefore, Mr. President, my respected colleagues, because Alero is my man, is my friend, at this stage, because I'm not a medical doctor, and therefore I may not have all the facts, I may not have all the details. But if for any reason this bill passes through this stage and it goes to the committee, where the committee has to spend taxpayers' money, the money that's supposed to be used in funding those hospitals that are already in existence, maybe you use that money, unfortunately, to do public hearing again. Oh, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues,
I have a problem with this bill. I want to save the bill, but I have a problem. Very big time problem, Mr. President. I think I wish to rest my case. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Lero.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think my colleague is quite right that the problem in this country is not the number of hospitals, but funding. And that's why this bill is concentrating on upgrading the existing healthcare institutions we have. We already have them. We are not establishing new ones. What we want to do now is to equip them, buy all the necessary equipment that are required. Mr. President, it's a wonderful fact that most of the teaching hospitals we have in this country, they don't have what we call MRI. And they don't have CT scan. You are a medical doctor, you know what I'm talking about. If they don't have doctors, and these are necessary tools and the equipment required by our medical doctors to work. The federal government has already started this project. What this bill is doing, or is seeking to do, is to legal disclosure what the government is doing. And that's why whatever overhead cost is mentioned, it is already provided in the FGM budget of 2018. So we don't even need to put it. So the funds required is for equipping the hospitals to make them state of the art, to make them comparable with the ones the patients go to see in Europe, America, or Middle East. So once this is done, it will stop people from going to India, Egypt, UK, or Saudi Arabia for medical treatment. The doctors, Mr. President, that are currently looking for greener pastures that are already in these countries will simply come back home and work here. So this is not it's not a question of motion. You need a law to give legal backing to it. So, Mr. President, I ask my colleague to allow this bill to go through the second reading. When we go to the committee stage, we will look at the nitty-gritty of it and defend it accordingly. Thank you.
Senator Gobri.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency and distinguished colleagues. To be candid, this is a very, very important bill. No, I'm talking to the chair, please. So allow me to talk to the chair. The bill is important in the sense that there is need to designate one particular hospital from each of the 6 geopolitical zones, so that it can be fully equipped, because that is the important thing. When we say equipped, we mean totally equipped with all the necessary documents, with all the necessary facilities, so that it will discourage people from going outside the country. I think this is very important. Sir, you are a medical doctor, you know this.
No, distinguished colleagues, from my chair where I'm sitting here, I will reserve not to contribute. Let me put the question. Those in favor that this bill be read the second time say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, the bill for an act to provide for the federal referral hospital in the 6 geopolitical zones of the country and for other matters connected therewith, 2018, second reading.
A bill for an act to provide for the federal referral hospital in the 6 geopolitical zones of the country and for other matters connected therewith, 2018 SP 588, second reading taken. This bill is referred to this is referred to the Committee on